one of the most memorable experiences I had with Earth Reptilians, hands down, was in Moscow, Russia, in October of 22, just last year, about a year ago from now. And this was at a old Soviet World War II or Cold Era type of war museum, and it was open for public. It's been decommissioned in 2018, I believe. And as I was there in the museum, it was very deep into the ground. I had a chance to meet this great Earth Reptilian contact, and I've had these Earth Reptilian contacts for a while, these connections and co-creations. I mean, everyone has their own ETs that they connect to and gravitate to and so forth. But in this incarnation, mine have been going back, as far as the Earth Reptilian Collective, about 35, 36 years. And this was one of the most fascinating ones because he was quite in my face, he was up and personal. And the way he executed this to me was just priceless. Took me by surprise, and I'll explain. So, in relation to fourth density, third density, fifth density, I always talk about that. I talk about that often because I'm identifying beings that come in different groups and they're from different sun densities or sub-density layers. So Earth as Earth, yeah, it's a realm. It's a reality, that's all it is. It's a video game. And there's a vast amount of physical beings. There's elementals, there's Ferokeys, there's everything from aquatic beings within the oceans to Sasquatch to so many different consciousnesses here, physical and non-physical. And collectives that are non-physical, but they're just non-incarnated collectives that sort of gather together and act as groups to either teach us or manipulate us. But as far as Earth Reptilians are concerned, there are definitely multiple versions of this particular entity. So if we look at this group, this race, as an entity or entities, this race, there's groups within them, and then there's divisions within them. There's not divisions in a bad way, but I'm talking about tiers. And they're bipedal just like us. So hands, legs, mouth, the whole thing. They don't crawl on floors. They're not some geckos. They're not some alligators and crocodiles and shit. I mean, they stand just like we do. They're just taller, obviously, more muscular, skin texture and all these things, different eyes. But I would say in my assessment, based on all the experiences with earthbound reptilians, no more than 20% difference between all of them. They're all the same. They all look pretty much the same. So in my opinion, at least, I say that they look quite the same. Their appearances are very similar, so different skin texture and physical height and thickness, jaw structure. The width of their shoulders, that's the one I always remember. Their shoulders are much wider. Their waist is quite small. Very interesting. And also too, I noticed skull sizes, the overall size of the eyes and the positions of the eyes. They don't look at straight on their target. They have eyes slightly sideways, and they would look almost on an angle. So it's very interesting, intimidating, but very interesting. I think it's fascinating. And they have the dinosaur DNA version of themselves, going back to, so if we look at second density to third density beings, and eventually they became fully bipedal. And then they had the powerful draconian blood, so draconian DNA, original draconian DNA, that was given to them, and that created this form of extremely large reptilian race that are living right here amongst us. And I don't get into myths and conspiracy theories and all these nonsense, fear-mongering, particularly now with religious or internet radical discussions, arguments, especially within the love, light, unicorn, and rainbow 5D cults, 6D cults, New Age cults, and all this new spirituality and stuff, particularly nothing that surrounds with anti-reptilian material, because most of it is just created by fearful and unaware mindsets. And I can assure everyone, just like everyone already probably knows, many people talk to reptilian beings. As many already know, Earth Reptilians are extremely real, quite physical in both fourth and early fifth density states or stages right here on Earth and within the surface of the Earth realm, because we live in a realm. They live in our oceans, they live in our mountains, and they truly are the custodians of Earth, in my perspective, definitely the large population, 800 million, just under 800 million. And they range from benevolent, malevolent, every other sub-density in between, everything else in between. There's always a fractal of this and fractal of that. It really all depends based on their own experiences with us. But they do, for a fact, like it or not, hold 24/7 monitoring of Earth, telecommunications, broadcasting, internet, TV, everything. Absolutely. Every single thing, including our military, presidents, all this stuff, it's all controlled by this race. So, very powerful race. And sometimes they work with humans. Most of the times they don't work with humans. They often work with their own, I guess the terminology in spiritual industries, star seeds. They're star seeds and so forth. And biggest misconception I hear is if Earth Reptilians were real, And why don't they show up here publicly in roads and streets and parks and all this stuff? So a quite primitive and close-minded type of question. I think it's lucid and ludicrous all at once at the same time. I mean, I get flabbergasted sometimes when I hear these stories. But first of all, let's cover that for multiple reasons. First and foremost, strict rules of engagement. Secondly, rules of non-interference, both determined by the empire, Draconian Empire. Also, too, their boredom with us. Standard human fear, standard human conditioning, resistances, religious programming, or just belief systems, but also, too, fear that is ancestral fear. So it cannot be uninstalled. So a variety of different reasons, including human trauma and abductions, torture and abductions and rape and other genetic extractions from us in the ancient time. And all this stuff lays in the DNA. Unconscious layer, subconscious layer, and other layers humans don't even know exist. But not to mention the ancestral fear, the biggest problem. But make the long story short, so in end of 22, I was in, I think due to the flight restrictions, I went from either Istanbul or Dubai all the way to Moscow, and it was a fall season. Beautiful city, beautiful city. I love going to Moscow. Great people, amazing patriots, beautiful music, food, and everything. So I'm a history fan, and Moscow is full of museums. Full of museums. That's all they specialize in, I think, war museums. That's their museum of choice, and it was amazing. So a friend of mine who lives there says, hey, you got to go to this museum. You're a big war buff. It is called Bunker 703. I said, okay, let's go there. So my buddy recommended it, gave me directions. And what this is, it's a bunker called 703 that belonged to Joseph Stalin back in the Cold War. And it's a museum today, so a tourist site, really. It's open a few days per week, certain hours and so forth. And it is actually, in fact, a real nuclear bunker built in the Cold War to protect Russians at that time. So this museum, which is this bunker, had professional offices, telecommunication rooms, electricity, beds, kitchens, storage rooms for everything from ammunition to weapons, corridors, tunnels, hidden rooms. Fascinating, just fascinating to see an office that looks just like one of our offices today. But this was built in the 50s, how advanced Russians were at that time. But this museum is located about, say, 20 minutes south from the Red Square. So just southbound by what's called the State Gallery or the Embassy of Indonesia, just below, maybe 5 minutes away. In this residential neighborhood filled with kitchen gardens and apartment buildings and so forth. So well tucked away. And I get there eventually, and it's this tiny little house, this hut, this tiny little shed, 20 foot by 20 foot, tiny little shed. And it was blended in perfectly, so I can see why they built it that way. And I get my tickets. I speak enough Russian to get my way around it in that country. So I explained them really well. I said, listen, I want to be left alone. I'm by myself. I'm from Canada. I have a video recorder. I had a GoPro camera, I remember, and I was filming everything. So I said, just let me stand in the back. And if I'm in the back, I said, you guys do your thing. There's 3 or 4 kids there, I remember. Parents brought their kids. And I said, let me just stay in the back and I'll do my own thing. I won't bug you guys. Just don't worry about me and just let me do my thing. They're like, perfect. And to me, I was like, perfect too. So I get to touch and feel and do things over there I wanted to do. And as far as this museum is concerned, so this is 155, I believe, feet, 150 or so, 155 feet deep into the soil, into the ground. These old rusted stairs, water leaking everywhere, no elevators, no English translations of anything, that's for sure. This old Soviet electrical wiring, smells like mold, but so unique at the same time. I mean, an absolutely incredible piece of history for all the war fans. And the bunker itself was declassified in either 2018 or 2019, so still left in this original shape, this original authentic environment without any decorations or renovations. So it was great for me. And I'm concentrated, I'm looking at this thing, and I'm going through the motions. I'm like, I wonder how many deceased humans are here. I wonder how many ghosts are here. I wonder if I open my third eye, what's going to happen. And I'm walking through these rooms, these rooms of tons of ammunition, all these different AK-47s, interesting stuff. And there was a laboratory. So I'm looking at this laboratory going like, I wonder who else touched this. I wonder what other hands laid on this back in 1950. And I had a water bottle with me, and it's important to mention that. And I had a Bounty bar, chocolate bar. And I bought it from the gift shop that they had upstairs. And I'm eating this Bounty bar, drinking a sip of water. And as that liquid is going down my throat, I had this extremely strong, unknown, unforeseen sensation in the third eye. So I knew immediately it's probably just a deceased human messing with me. So I said, okay, great, perfect. I've interacted with them before several different times, so I understand their tactics and maneuvers, the tricks they do. So I shifted quickly into fourth density, opened my third eye, and within a few seconds, and I'd say probably 2 to 3 seconds, which truly lasted for minutes, or a little bit longer than a few seconds. At that time, within seconds, best way I can say it in English is that the time stopped. The time, the movement, the emotions, all the energy around all these humans that were around with their children stopped. The tour guide, I didn't hear him anymore. The humming noise of the old Soviet pipes and water draining, and all stopped. The water dripping and hitting the metal stairs stopped. Wind noise, the coldness, because this was October, it was freezing. There was no heat there. It smelled like mold. So everything that I've observed, smelled, sensed, looked at, touched, just stopped. The coldness I felt prior to pulling out my camera to record things stopped. Literally, in my own density, so in my particular density layer, so within this dimension, this densities, I'm in the density, everything stopped. Everything paused, everything got suspended. Like there was nothing around me. And in my peripheral vision, I remember seeing everything just stop. So I'm focusing on this target, which I'll explain in a minute. My right, my left, I'm seeing humans stop. Children stopped. Everything stopped. And I remember eating this chocolate bar. And at that moment too, the taste buds in my tongue didn't process the taste of chocolate or me swallowing it through my throat. Nothing was processed. I didn't feel cold or warm. I didn't even feel I had a digestive system. I didn't even have a feeling I needed to go to the bathroom. Nothing. The only thing, the only one thing that was alive, and it wasn't from this dimension, it was what was occurring right in front of me. So my focus was directed at that time because this entity tapped into my consciousness. And it's fine. It was great. It was my free will. So it was great. I was actually looking forward to it. I'd say 15, 20 feet right in front of me at about 10 to 20 degrees to my right. And the energy tapped into my consciousness, instructed me to look at a certain direction and energetically with the own protocols that I've enabled as I've been instructed with my own reptilian counterparts, particularly with Theta Tauri. So I was informed quite quickly that this is a consciousness that wishes to connect and a meeting will take place. And this all happens in seconds. So I agreed, of course, we agreed on our side. So fourth, fifth, sixth density. So third integrated into fourth, fourth into fifth, fifth into sixth. And at that time, a dark skinned reptilian male, very dominant male, walked right out of that wall. And he walked out of the wall, and I was shocked, but obviously I wasn't shocked. But I was just fascinated to see such a massive entity that manifested and walks out of the wall, right 15, 20 feet in front of me. And no one saw this being. So what he did was he manifested his energy, dropped his vibration in order for me to see him both ways. So with my third eye and with my human eyes, because I had my eyes open and I kept closing and opening, closing and opening. So this thing was very real. It wasn't a projection or AI or anything. And his upper body, the waist, the head, the shoulders, the jawline, the eyes. Look at the dinosaur eyes. I remember the bone structure on his forehead and the cheekbones. Energy was massive. I drive an SUV here at home Canada, and his head had to be the size of that SUV tire. And it was fascinating to look at, obviously, so I was staring. I remember just staring. And I was looking forward to find out who he is. Where's he from? What are you about? What's your deal? Why are we here? And as I stared at his jaw, I'm looking at the jaw going back all the way, right below the ears. The jaw started here and it went all the way around. So I knew that he wasn't a draconian because draconians have particular skin texture. And I met enough draconians, but I met 39 draconians from 9 different groups, including KALASK and THETA. Mostly with KALASK, I would say, I've encountered with, but they did not have the skin texture of the draconian beings. So definitely I was like, okay, great, it's an Earth Reptilian. So when we started to talk, make the long story short, he first and foremost looked at the signatures added to my own aura field. So the draconian beings, upon certain approvals and certifications, they add their signature to your aura field. So he looked at half a dozen of those, and then theta signatures. Similar procedure I already covered in another video when I met a reptilian being in Istanbul. So same thing. I very proudly speak of these events because They're extremely powerful and honorable in my perspective. Of course, there always will be. So these encounters are absolutely amazing, and it's always evident, I think, for everyone that goes through these encounters, just how beneficial reptilian connection can be. Those that are interested obviously understand. Those that are not, that's fine. They have their own thing that they're doing in life with their own free will. But so he assessed these draconian associations. He assessed sort of my own energy, consciousness. He obviously knew I wasn't there. And that's one of the things he asked. He says, this is not your region, why you're here. And he was very, very strong in his mind, very strict to the point, very bold, not malevolent in any way. Nothing in any way that has to do with threats, none of this fear-mongering we hear on the internet, but no. I certainly allowed him into my energy, so he was able to look at my consciousness completely. So the initiative took place for me to do that, and I projected to him my open mind, my willingness to connect, and my own application of doing things, the methods of doing things. And it's his perspective. He says, why am I there? What brings me there? This is not my region. I remember him saying that, of course. And I wasn't local, obviously, and I'm not from Russia. So I explained to him, I said, look, I'm here personally. This is a tourist. This is your home. I understand. I said, I mean, no trouble. I just came here to observe and enjoy this region. And then he gave me an understanding of who he is, his group, where is he now, where is he located, his history in Russia, his history within that region, not specifically Moscow. These beings have power to manage many, many things in just one city. And then he explained, to my shock, that he was actually now physically at that moment stationed on the moon, which is the moon structure. And moon, as I already explained in my video, is just hollow, artificial, spy ancient satellite, created, brought, managed, facilitated by the Alpha Draconian Empire. And so he explained energetically how things work and all these things, and it was great. Taught me a lot, obviously. Every one of the meetings I've ever had with any reptilian beings, it's always a tutorage. It's always some kind of test. It's always some kind of a lesson. That's a wonderful thing. It's exactly why I consider myself as a student. Is I'm constantly learning, which is the point of my incarnation, is figure out energy and figure out wisdom. Fame and all this other materialistic bullshit, that's just waste of time. But I always keep an open mind and an appreciation for reptilian species, draconian species. And in my perspective, I think it's the greatest power in the galaxy, this particular species. And then he explained that he's not just stationed within the moon structure that has no ties to Russia. He's explained that before, a long time ago, he was stationed physically, so fourth density, physically here in our Earth realm. And they had, I think, a coverage of the entire country of Russia too. So that's kind of their region. That was very, very familiar to him. That was his home. But then much later on, after this entire incident, I was much explained about the details of this particular entity, the power he held, the rank that he held, and how that many, many Earth reptilians always have been there and always worked in that specific area, so the area of Russia. And not just now, as in 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, World War II, World War I. It's not what I mean. I'm talking about hundreds and hundreds of years, because our calendar that we follow here is completely wrong. So because he was originally from Moscow, it was extremely easy for him to concentrate and focus his energy and even know when I entered Russia, and waited for the perfect opportunity to be able to push down his energy, so push forward his own consciousness towards mine. And as far as on my end, we didn't block this. We didn't prevent this. I made sure none of the higher self layers prevented this, and all allowed. That was perfect, great. Higher fractal also allowed us to meet. We felt together as one, because I am my soul is me. We are our souls, we're just physical. This was a great opportunity to meet and grow from, and it was wonderful to see his professionalism, of course, his dignity, his noble character. And when it comes to Earth Reptilians, I've done some videos on them, and the three Earth Reptilians I'm very, very personally close to is the three within the Earth structure. They belong to my oversoul. Then one of the three is the story, the video I've done on the Poland reptilian that I met based on an experience within Poland on 3 separate occasions, being that's from that area there. And often, very, very often, with these type of off-planet reptilian beings who had their history here on Earth to very specific region, it happens, these kind of things happen. So they'll look at someone that has either enabled one of the reptilian keys or draconian keys within them, or one that is in the process of enabling the keys. And if the keys are enabled, then it's very easy to work with that human. Or telepathy is enabled, or the channeling non-trance or trance is enabled. So in this case, this was from the moon's perspective, and moon structure is just almost right across the street from us. It is not how the internet says how far it is. It's not. Those numbers on the internet are not true. So he very quickly pinged, and when he pinged, and he sent that broadcasting signal, we were able to perceive it. So no hallucination insertions were used, technology insertions were not used, no avatars was used, no hijacking, obviously, nothing in any way that has to do with fake projections or AI and anything. This was a direct projection of one consciousness from a higher density to interact directly and physically with a physical human living in the third density in a daytime physical way by manipulating what we would say as humans, time. There is no time. Time doesn't exist. So this was his communication with me. And very, very quickly I learned just that a being from off planet is able to do that. I understood contact going back to like my Yael days. I understood that, but what I didn't know is that he can just be on Moon doing his thing, or be on Mars, or be on Jupiter, or be wherever, and just manifest his own consciousness to become physical, to a degree, in order for a physical human being to see him, but then manipulate our time so that no one else sees him. So it's wonderful. And as weeks went by, so I'm back in Canada, back to my home. I live in Toronto, Canada, and as I'm connecting to my own higher fractals, trying to find out details, I was extremely curious. I also wanted to know his intentions, because that's not something we discussed there. And they were 100% positive. Not loving, not compassionate and caring. He didn't want to write poetry with me and have a latte and pet me on the head, but they were not malevolent in any way. So I look forward to seeing him again. And for me, of course, this experience taught me many different things. First and foremost, I had no idea that there are so many underground tunnels underneath Russia, connecting Russia and St. Petersburg. I had no idea. And in this museum, all of the pictures, so publicly available, are depicting all of these tunnels. And they go back to Tartaria days, actually, but Tartaria didn't build shit. They used Atlantean surviving technology, which is another subject. And the amount of these underground tunnels below Moscow, below St. Petersburg, it's fascinating. It's overwhelming to even understand. Pictures just don't make sense. Because we have no point of reference here in Canada or in the United States, even though the United States has many tunnels underneath that humans don't know about. Another thing too is that reptilians and humans can be allies. We can be friends, teachers, tutors, student-tutor relationship, and this was a perfect example. They are extraordinarily dangerous. It's that species. They're lethal, fierce, of course, but they're very, very respectful when the respect is shown. Their mental warfare surpasses any university education, any education on the reptilian brain. I've done a video on the reptilian brain, the truth on the reptilian brain, but their mental warfare just surpasses everything. Psychologists would have their jaws dropped by the amount of information I received on the reptilian brain, things that are not taught in schools. But again, with respect given, respect is returned. With courage and bravery shown, tutorage is given. Pride deserves pride. Respect deserves respect. And many different things. And one of the things too that I've learned from this group, based on the statements of my higher self and the understanding and education, they absolutely hate lies. They hate human lies. They hate human manipulation tactics and fakeness. Not ego and narcissism, no, but just lies. That was interesting. I highly agree. And as far as the moon's concerned, I've already done a video on that too, about two and a half years ago. It is a satellite with AI computer right on the inside, run by Greys and Earth Reptilians. Couple different Alpha Draconian hybrid beings, not beings as in entities, but groups themselves. It was brought here originally with 2 moons. One was removed, blah, blah, the whole story about the moon. I think even birds in the sky here know about the moon. Everyone knows the moon's fake, it's hollow. And as far as the Earth, this is not our planet. This is not even a planet. This is a realm, a reality. And the true masters, the true owners, the true custodians and the managers are the Earth Reptilians. The managers, directors, surveillance and reconnaissance specialists, Earth Reptilians, not humans. We're a new race. We're just tenants here. We just rent an apartment in a building, in a sense. So we just temporary are here. We need to know our hierarchy ranks, positions of power, and remove the pathetic and ridiculous human arrogance, narcissism and ego in order to get along with these beings. And for me personally, I see Earth Reptilians not as my enemy. There's no way. I have bonds with them. They're stronger than some human bonds. And they obviously are experts at empowering humans. Their words cannot describe. It's just inconceivable. So I don't see Earth Reptilians as my enemy. They never will be my enemy. There's more humans there I see as enemies, but not extraterrestrials. But unfortunately, Earth Reptilians are always blamed for all of the human problems. Literally everything. Earth Reptilians, off-planet reptilians, alpha draconians, insectoids and zays and greatest. They're not our enemy. Humans are most biggest and worst enemies to themselves. Biggest critics to themselves, to each other, to our nature and environment. We're war addicts. So I hope these things change within the human race, at least in my lifetime. It starts to change, and it should.